Hello, my name is the Jordan Coach of the Virginia Vikavolt. Welcome to that concentrated, analytical VGC Draft League content straight into your veins, baby. The Draftables is a series in which I intend to use one great Pokemon as a jumping off point into concepts and what works in this game, how mons function, how they contribute to certain playstyles, how they contribute to Draft League rosters overall, and how they produce those wins. I'm going to be starting off with the literal stuff, what Persian's got, which is a lot, but mainly talk about roles and comparisons to other types of mons. I intend to argue that there is no mon that does all of what Persian does, or does half of what Persian does, as well as this goofy looking cat. So even if you can't get Persian, you're going to want some of the combinations of what it does on other mons, and you're going to want to understand why those combinations are so good. So let's jump in. If I had to break down Persian in just 12 words or less, it would be move pool, move pool, move pool, move pool, move pool, 5 move pools, fast, 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 bulk, 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 and surprise. Persian totally breaks the rules in terms of you're supposed to not be this fast and this bulky. You're supposed to not be this fast and have this incredibly diverse move pool. You look at these stats and that's the first surprise of Persian. 60 and 70 doesn't look that impressive. You know, the average fully evolved mon has 80s or 90s in these stats. But that unique ability turns this defense stat into that. So I'm going to show it as this for the rest of the video. This is a doubling of the defense stat, doubling of the points you get for free on top, and any defense investments you make are also doubled. So Persian can be unbelievably tanky. It's a brick wall, and it's a brick wall that can do 15 different threat name things to you. You're staring down a Persian turn 1, and there is no way to reliably play that turn correctly until you know all 4 moves it's got. And in Draft League, it can be anything. If all it did was fake out Snarl and Icy Wind, then it would be a good Pokemon. If all it did was fake out Snarl and Icy Wind with that bulk or that speed, it would be a great Pokemon. But it does with an unmatched combination of bulk and speed and the threat of stealing your item, making you go automatically last, making it so you do no damage, stealing your item, stopping you from using support moves of your own, amplifying its partner's damage, using your own attack stat against you. I'm not going to define all of these moves because we'd be here forever. PokemonShowdown.com/teambuilder. You can pause the video anytime, but this is for the Elite Draft League players. This is a very different move profile than Swampert, my first Draftables mon, which was all about how do I deal damage in interesting ways. All of these, even before you do damage. Persian does a decent amount of damage, but if you're fearing all of the things Persian does, it can pretty easily sneak in a nasty plot and become a legit offensive threat. It's all about the combinations, though. Persian is mainly a supportive Pokemon, and it has an unrivaled combination of support moves. There's virtually no mon that gets Fake Out Snarl and Icy Wind, and Persian is one of the fastest in all 3 of the moves. One of these 2 to 4 mons that beats Persian in all 3 categories is Weavile. So Weavile is the closest analog to Persian, but some pretty obvious differences is that Weavile dies very easily, nowhere close to the defenses. It does these moves with a much lower special attack stat, and Persian, its ability that you shouldn't use as much as Fur Coat, but it's nevertheless an option for Draft League, makes Snarl and Icy Wind 50% stronger. So there's another surprise for Persian, is that it's dealing over twice the damage of Weavile when using the same moves. So an unmatched combination, and speed is really important when you're using support moves. I'll get more into that later. And this is how you can begin to understand Persian as more than a mon, but an archetype, a fast controller of games, a fast support, a bulky support, a disruptor, a ruiner of your day. Draft is all about the surprises, and Persian's got a lot of them. I want to do some real apples to apples comparisons here, just understanding truly how bulky Persian is, because Pokemon's weird and it's got multiple defense stats, and you need to just throw them into a calculator and truly figure out who's got more heft. So Swampert was the focus of my first Draftable series as a bulky Pokemon. Persian is 20% bulkier than Swampert. It is bulkier than Mew. It is bulkier than Mandibuzz, one of the notorious stall defensive Pokemon. It is at least as bulky as Regigigas. Look it up. This is a neutral hit Tauros Body Slam doing the same amount to a Persian and to a Regigigas. And when you invest into Persian's physical defense, which I had in here, Persian becomes even bulkier than Regigigas. We're talking within 3 with max physical defense on both of them. Persian is within 3% as bulky as Cresselia, like the defense Pokemon. It is a brick wall. It is nearly within like 10% of as bulky as Incineroar after the Intimidate. So after you've cut their attack down into 2/3, Persian's 40% bulkier than Incineroar, or 30% or something like that. So that's... And then that ability, like, you can't counter-intimidate. Or you can counter-intimidate, but Fur Coat's just innate to Persian. So, unbelievable bulk. That's a true understanding of just how bulky it is, despite its looks. Fast. 96th percentile. Nothing is as bulky as Persian in its speed tier above. Again, that trade-off is totally broken by Fur Coat. How did they even let Fur Coat into this game? A lot of these mons faster than Persian, and it's a crowded speed tier, 115. But a lot of the mons faster than Persian, you start to really see the trade-offs. Like, Sceptile is a hot, steaming pile of garbage that underperforms in every way, but it is used anyway. It is useful anyway because of its 120 speed stat. So incredible to be as good as Persian, or as fast as Persian, but also have all of its other gifts. And one of the other surprises is you see this low attack stat, but you also see Persian has some of the best ways to overcome its low attack stat, because Foul Play uses the opponent's attack stat. Fake Tears and Screech amplify your partner, which can have a real attack stat. So that's how you get around Persian's supposed flaws. This is the key understanding here. One of the key concepts is that if you're doing support moves, speed is not just better, it's exponentially better. This is a comparison. Let's say you're next to a Feeny, which, by the way, Persian is the fastest user of Flatter in the entire game, which is a specific synergy with Feeny and Misty Surge. You can look that one up. But let's say you're pairing Persian with a Feeny, and it's staring down what looks like a scary matchup, right? Zapdos can do 2/3 to a Feeny pretty easily. You can Snarl it and try to control its damage output, but if you're not going first, if you're some other Snarler, then Zapdos is still two-shotting you. It's still making up just enough to finish. But Persian outspeeds the Zapdos. It outspeeds 95% of Pokemon, so it gets to Snarl first, and then not only the first move is lower, and the second move is even lower, and then you're turning by going half a turn faster, you're turning a 2-hit KO into a 4-hit KO. And that's really important, especially when you combine it with recovery, with draining and your own boosting moves. It turns a losing matchup into a winning matchup. Speed is an all or nothing proposition, and so it's good to be just as fast as Persian is. Beating Persian, there's definitely counters to it, right? The lifeblood of Persian is reducing your opponent's stats. Snarl, Icy Wind, Parting Shot, Charm, and Defiant and Competitive turn stat drops into boosts for the opponent. So I've seen a match with Poppin' Fresh in the VBLS where he mistakenly uses a Icy Wind and a Parting Shot into a Bisharp, and Bisharp scales out of control with its Defiant ability. That is a hard counter. In Draft League, you want to look and see if there's a Defiant competitive mon, and you'll have to use Persian craftily, right? You'll have to be careful with using Snarl or Icy Wind, or just focus on the other things that Persian's got going for it. There are mons faster than Persian. As far as team construction, 115 is... you can have Persian be your fastest mon on the team. I wouldn't recommend too much lower than 115 be your very fastest speed benchmark, but 115 can be the fastest. It's even better if you've got other fast mons with Persian. There are faster mons than Persian. I'm jumping ahead of myself, but something to pair with Persian could be a low-tier Prankster mon for those 5% that try to outspeed Persian, or the a big group of Pokemon that try to outspeed Persian with a Choice Scarf. Nothing outspeeds priority, so you can have that dual speed tier here. So you want to be faster than Persian if you're gifted enough. You want to be a good utilizer of a Choice Scarf if you can't be as fast as Persian. To make yourself faster than Persian, start getting that exponential control of the game, reducing their attack, reducing their speed, turning that into a combination play with your partner. A lot of Persian's offensive presence is dark moves, Foul Play, Thief, Snarl. And so Dark Resists can withstand Persian a lot easier, particularly Fairies seem to have a good time. And Snarl and Lifeblood, Snarl and Icy Wind, the moves of choice for Persian, especially Technician boosted, both get blocked by Wide Guard, so something to pay attention to. Pacing, if you haven't quite picked it up from the first however many minutes of this video, Persian is a fast-paced Pokemon. It controls the game from turn 1. It makes a big impact from turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. It doesn't really stop making a big impact when it's Snarling. Snarling just gets worse and worse for the opponent. But it does even better in fast-paced games. I just don't think it's that important for Persian. I will talk about the Dynamax difference. I think most of this analysis has been without Dynamax in mind. That is the future of VGC. But Dynamax only helps Persian. It's not a big difference. I'd recommend Persian in all formats, in all paces. But Dynamax helps with... Dynamax really stresses those first few turns, getting those overwhelming momentum, getting the ball rolling, and just never letting go of control of the game is a lot easier with Dynamax. And so Persian's really good on those first few turns. It's really good at screwing around with Dynamaxers and amplifying your own Dynamaxes with Fake Tears or Screech. It's not itself a Dynamaxer, and you can't just fake out a Dynamax Pokemon, and Airstream can kind of counter Icy Wind. Overall, I think Persian likes Dynamax, but doesn't need Dynamax to be a great Pokemon in any way. What to draft with Persian? The main thing to get the most out of Persian is to not rely upon it for everything it does. It's great that it does everything, but if you are relying on it for 12 different moves, you can only run 4 of them at a time, and certain moves can't work with certain strategies, right? You can't fake out if you're a Scarf Persian. Scarf Persian is an amazing mix-up for all the mons that are trying to outspeed Persian, the 5% that already do, and all the Choice Scarfers no doubt coming to outspeed Persian, and then you just carry your own Scarf and beat them anyway. But if you're Scarfing, you're probably not faking out, so you want another fake out so that you can do both things at once, or at least do both things at once over the course of the set. Other damage control, right? If you're going to use Technician boosted Icy Winds and Snarls, then you want your other fake out. If you are facing that Defiant Mon, then all of a sudden you're not using your Snarls and Icy Winds anymore. You're going to want Mons who can control damage without triggering Defiant. Burns and Screens are those best damage controls that meets just different circumstances than Persian. And if you're controlling the game, you still need to do damage, right? This is an offensively oriented game. It's good, right? That most games don't become a stall fest, at least in VGC. So do your damage, use that control, turn it into damage. Glass Cannons can love Persian for its fake out and quash and ability to just stop the mons from attacking that frail partner at all. But bulky attackers also love Persian because it makes them unkillable. It exponentially increases their survivability. There is no comparison for all of these moves. Which slide is it? All of the moves. But a lot of these moves can be found on Weavile. If you want some of that control with a real, raw, physical attack stat, Weavile and its pre-evolution are your mons. If you want fast control, there's nothing faster than Prankster, and Lipard does some things faster than Persian. It is really nice, though, that Lipard attempts to taunt Persian, and because it's priority, Persian's a dark type and blocks it, but Persian is not taunting with priority, it's just taunting really fast, so Lipard still gets taunted. So it's that's that anti-prankster tech going on here, which is raw speed. But other elite pranksters can approximate its speed control roles. Suicune does have both Snarl and Tailwind, and a lot of survivability on both sides, so that is definitely a mon that would fill some of the shoes that Persian provides. Incineroar is just slow Persian. It does other things, but it's slow Persian. And you're going to need to find mons that do half of what Persian does, or a third of what Persian does. Just a Ribombee does struggle bugs and speed swaps, and so it does some of that control, but it doesn't offer that bulk. So an Entei, a Cresselia, so you have both the bulk and the speed, and then you can use one for each circumstance if you can't get both in one, which is what Persian does for you. Here's my final verdict. Persian is approaching top tier levels of amazingness. It is on a 1 to 20 scale, which is often how mons are costed on a draft league points board. Persian I would pay 14 for. I would potentially pay even more for a great team, but I don't think Persian's strength relies much on particular teams. Of course, all mons do well with certain partners, right? Persian beats up justified mons, it flatters a Tapu Fini, but all mons like fake out support. All of them. A lot of mons like Snarl and Icy Wind support. A lot of mons like, where is it? Shutting down support Pokemon by tricking a Choice Scarf onto them. And so you don't need any particular team to make Persian great, and that's why it fetches top dollar. I think Persian can be an early draft pick, particularly if you drafted with a Terrakion, like a Justified Mon, or if you've already gotten some great top-tier attackers, then Persian is your top-tier support. A+, A triple plus. High Roller Draft League has Persian at the 3rd out of 4 tiers. It's one of those mons, it doesn't look like it's so great. I mean, it shouldn't be this great, but it is. So another hole in the High Roller Draft League. If you're my High Roller friends watching, go grab Persian in the next season early. Early would be better. Comment below with mons that fit the Draftable series. They fill roles really well. I'm not gonna feature mons that I've already shown in my Draft League matches on this channel, but I do want to take some niche mons, right? That they fill a narrower role and they come a couple of weeks and make a big impact in those weeks. So stay tuned for that. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know if I'm totally exaggerating. I don't really think I am. Like, Persian's got weaknesses. I mentioned them here. But, man, what can do what Persian does? Nothing. Respect for the cat. Stay tuned for the next one.